All right, well, we are doing it again. at random, at it again. We're doing, trying this remote broadcasting, and it worked out pretty good last time from what I remember.
Right, yeah, it definitely did. Only issue was I was in a freezing cold house because my furnace was broken, but at least we got it.
Have you taken care of that since then?
Well, halfway. I can get the house to heat up, but it's not like a normal furnace where it goes on its own. Like I have to go manually and turn on the furnace like every few hours, but it's really not that big of a deal. Like until I get a new. Well, unfortunately, my dad came and looked at it and he said that I'd probably have to get a new furnace because it's pretty old and stuff was breaking down and everything like that. So we ended up getting a new furnace, until we get it in or until my dad gets it in. We gotta do it manually, and but that's, I mean, at least we got the system where like we can actually heat up the house. You know what I mean? Like at least it's not like
this is the wrong time of year. It got real cold real fast here, so yeah, this is the wrong time of year, wrong region of the country to have that problem.
Exactly right. But yeah, we got the system down pat. Like during the day, I mean, it depends if it gets really cold, but I mean, the only one suffering, unfortunately, is my little dog, because she's the one that sits there all day. Like, me and Melanie are both off at work. So she's the only one that suffers, but she seems to do fine with it. I mean, she sits around where it's usually cold. So, but yeah, I get home, I turn the heat on right away, and it seems to work. I mean, I go as high as I can because, because it's like, basically once it gets up to a certain temperature, then it's like, all right, you hold up, it's like for a few hours, then the house will be heated for a few hours until, like, before we go to bed, then we turn it on again, and then it's all good from there, so.
Okay, well, that's good to know. That at least is a solution for now, a temporary solution.
Right, exactly. So last time we were talking, you were working on The Purge 4. Is that all wrapped up, or are they still filming some things? What's going on with that?
Yeah, they did wrap, and they're officially out of Buffalo now. Now there's probably just some editing and things to do, and it will come out in July. But it was a really great experience, something I'm really happy to have been a part of. And then since our last episode, you kind of made the rest of the franchise seem really cool to me. I didn't realize that, I thought, oh, wow, Purge 4, what is this, like Sharknado? They just keep churning out sequels. But I saw the first one back when it came out back in 2012, and
It's something like that, yeah.
Third and fourth one, and that was pretty neat. I enjoyed them, for what they were. So it'll be cool to see what this one does to follow it, especially knowing the whole thing was filmed right in Buffalo, right here.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it's going to be, I mean, obviously you have to feel some pride where you're like, all right, I'm going to go see a movie that I was in. Now, mind you, I'm not one of the premier marquee names, but I'm in it, and my name's probably got to appear. I mean, you have to get some sort of credit in the credits, right?
Yeah, I might. I don't know. It depends. Usually for a big budget movie like that, they probably will. There's usually like really long credits for movies like that. So if there's really long credits, I'm sure I'll be able to like just stand there for a half hour and stare at the screen until I see my name. So that's nice.
Right, and then like you were a stand-in too as well, so you would get a little more credit than say just your standard extra.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was personally a stand-in for one of the main characters rather than just a guy way in the background. So.
Right. Exactly. Not just a member of that gang that they'll tell people, hey, he's really not a member of that gang, but.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want my name on it, because a lot of the extras had to play members of hate groups and that sort of thing, and a lot of them are like, well, thank God we're wearing masks and wearing hoods, because this would be really awkward to,
Well, I mean, it's not. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, Lee. I think I know what you mean. It's like people will know it's a movie, but anybody can screenshot something and then just spread rumors type of thing.
Right, yeah, and especially in this social media age, So,
Right, for sure.
so the big thing that I've been wanting you to do since we started this podcast, so we can kind of debate about it, because growing up, me and you were both huge Pokemon fanatics, and I still kind of am. I don't know how much you are still, but I still have on my Kindle. I still have the games on that, and
Oh, really? Now,
yeah, I still
how many
have.
generations did you play? Because I definitely, of course, everyone who's our age, if they didn't play, the red version, blue version, and sometimes the yellow version, it's like, what did you even do? What were
Right,
you doing
man. What
with your life
what were you
between?
on during those times, man?
Right, exactly. What were you doing between? What did they came to America in I think 1999 when we were about 8, and so
Yeah, we were definitely younger. Yeah, when they came, I can't give you the
right, if
exact
you
date, but because they started in Japan, I think in '96. They were
right, and then
it was red, blue, and green actually, because there was
right,
a
which is
green
weird because
version
they
in
never
Japan.
really brought a green over to America
Right,
until
not that version, but they did
after.
a leaf green, which would be
Right, that was
a
like
Game
the
Boy Advance
remaster of the
version.
original. Yeah, they wanted to add modern graphics and things to the original, like make it for a younger generation. Which, when you do pick up the very old, the very original, the red or blue version, you realize, like, wow, look at these damn graphics, man.
Right.
It's amazing that we were that entertained compared to how we're spoiled now with modern graphics. Like, wow, we didn't care that this was like just these clumps of pixels walking around. This was still really entertaining. You think like
Basically.
kids today are glued to electronics, like their tablets and their phones now. Like our generation, especially boys in our generation, it was all about Game Boys. The Game Boy,
Mhm.
regular Game Boy Color, playing Pokemon. It was so addictive because it wasn't just beating levels. It was raising an organic family. It was what you made of it. You trained these things, you raised them, you added new ones to your collection, you triumphed with them, you failed with them. It was just
Right.
such a brilliant way to design a game. There had not been a game like that before or since that can really capture somebody the way Pokemon did, that you can actually raise something up like a Tamagotchi, but you could still go on adventures with it like a regular
Mhm.
video game. Combined in those two, really
Right.
great.
The only
But what?
downside of the Pokemon like franchise is that like once you complete the story and once you get all the Pokemon, there's really not much else. Like once you do that, it's basically okay. You either got to start a new game or like just go
Right,
up,
it's
like
really tough.
level up.
Yeah, it's not like that's remotely easy, but yeah, not a lot of replay value once you do complete the task. And again, not that this is an easy task, but you have to beat everybody in the whole game, and win like the championship, and then catch each individual Pokemon, or at least like raise them to evolve, and
Right.
that's not easy. But once you do that, yeah, you just have to keep entering the tournament over and over. Just in the playoffs, the Elite Four are like the final people. You just have to keep doing that over and over because there's not much more you can do once you have
Right.
all 100
Exactly. Yeah.
ones.
But I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, we still got like there's a million different possibilities with like okay, so there's the first three, so you start with either I mean, there's three, there's usually a fire, grass, and water, your typical like type,
Right. And they
whatever
always have,
generation it is.
and they all have the potential to evolve, like in 3 forms, and they're all
Mhm.
rare, and they're all powerful and very true to their type. Yeah, every generation has a new big 3 to choose from.
Right, and the only I mean, the longest one I went to was Emerald, which is Game Boy Advance. That was the far. I mean, Leaf Green and Fire Red came out after that, but I mean, those are basically just re-graphics of Red, Yellow,
Of
and
the
Blue.
just a remake of the
So
original.
it's basically not a different story per se, but it's like just better graphics for them. They
Yeah, more
basically
modern
combined
day.
the graphics from Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, and they made it into Red and Blue and Yellow
Right, they applied
stories from them.
the originals.
So
Yeah.
that's basically as far as I got was the Red, Yellow, the Fire Red and leaf green. Like once it got to the 2DS and the 2D, like those systems, that's when I got to college and high school, and that's when it kind of faded out for me. And I'm actually hoping,
I
fingers
never
crossed.
bought. Yep.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed for this Christmas. I'm hoping to get those systems and those versions because I have never played them. So it'd be a new like time killer for me, and I think that'd be cool because I always grew up loving these. Like they wasted my time. My famous line to my mom, and she'd never get it, was, "I can't save my game during a battle." Like once I get rid of this battle, I'll get to whatever you want me to.
They should interview a whole bunch of like moms of like who have sons about our age and be like, "Do you recognize this quote? I can't save during a battle." Like I bet everybody would raise their hand. I know my mom and all of her sisters who have my cousins who are around my age and that they'd all be raising their hand like, yeah, and then I want them to also ask, keep your hand up if you remotely understood what that even means. And most hands would go down.
Would go right down, yeah. And the other one would be I can't nowadays it'd be more of a I can't stop a game during online play. I think that's the newer one because obviously you can't pause an online game. Like once it's going, and the online people you're going to get killed or you're going to get beat, whatever you're doing. So like you can't pause it. So it's like that's probably the newer one where it's like, oh, I can't pause an online game, and parents will probably never get that. But the kids nowadays are so spoiled. Like I remember when I got my first game system, the PS2, when I was about, I want to say 12, 13. Like I was definitely like I think we just became friends, so it'd probably be around 7th grade. And that was when I got this. Maybe a little bit before that. I'm not exact of the years, but I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And it was like, oh my God, I finally, because I had the old Nintendo, like the gray box Nintendo, growing up. Like that was my game system.
Wow.
It really wasn't mine. It was more my, I don't know if it had to be my dad's, because we never bought one from what I remember. So like that was the original game system I had. And obviously from there it went to Game Boy, and then it went back to the PS2, and obviously I stuck with the PlayStation since then. But like growing up with those games, like it was just a new thing, and it was just so cool. I mean, I'm kind of bummed that I got away from it after graduating college. Like I really didn't play games. I more just watched TV and just kind of watched episodes and stuff like that. And I'm kind of getting back into it with like, I have the PS4 and I play Lego games now. Like as we discussed in earlier episodes, I have the Game Boy versions of, like the Pokemon games again. Like I play those. I'm hoping to get like the handheld console, the 2DS or 3DS, whatever. Hopefully, fingers crossed, my wife wants to get me or anybody wants to get me. But so those games, like, and I think it's like. Oh, go ahead, man. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt. The only downfall of the phone to phone is that we can't like read each other's like, okay, is he done talking or anything like that. The only downfall.
Right, yeah, that'll definitely take some getting used to for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go back to
sorry, go ahead.
When we first had these games. Which was your first? Did you have blue version, red version, or yellow version?
I had blue. I was a blue. I had the blue game and the lime green Game Boy Color. Like I didn't have an original Game Boy. I had the Game Boy Color. That was my first.
Yeah, most people had the Game Boy Color. That's when they were really mass produced.
Right, because I think around when we were younger, like maybe 4 or 5 years old, that's when the Game Boy, like the big gray one, came out. I believe. I'm not exactly sure. But then when we were that's when we started was Game Boy Color, which were all the different colors of the Game Boys, which was so cool. Like the lime green, the blue. I think there was a red. There was definitely a yellow because there was Pikachu on it. Like I remember that. And so.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
I had blue and lime green. What was yours?
And yeah, I had blue version was my first, and it was a pretty common Game Boy Color model. It was the one where you could kind of see through it. It was like a transparent purple.
Yep, I remember. Yeah, actually, I remember.
Right, you could kind of see the circuit boards and that sort of thing. So that's what I had. Now, which one? As they said in the anime, I still remember watching the very first Pokemon episode and Professor Oak going to Ash. Which one do you choose? Who was your franchise player?
Oh, I love Blastoise. Like, that was my favorite, so I always went with Squirtle.
Okay, so you picked Squirtle. Yeah, because I was, I grew up around water and, like, lakes and stuff, so I was always admired Misty, and Misty had red hair like I do, so I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a water Pokemon trainer, and I got Squirtle as well.
Right, yeah, Squirtle. But as I grew, I kind of thought about strategy, and, so the best one I think would be Bulbasaur. That would be your first best one, because if you go through the gym leaders, you got Brock, who is Rock.
Yeah.
So that would be number 1. Number 2 is Water, so he's still good against that. 3, he's Electric, which obviously he's not good, like he's not super effective against, but he's like a good defense against it. The 4th one is Grass as well, so it's like, okay, there's kind of a standoff there. Then when you get to the 5th, 6th, and 7th, that's when it kind of gets hard again. Like the first time you have trouble.
By then you can like diversify your team though. By then you'll have caught and raised a bunch of other like pretty tough guys of different types that you can match up against them. But no, that's pretty smart. Yeah, if you pick your first overall draft pick, you pick Bulbasaur, you already have the built-in advantage against the first 2 gyms, because it's so hard to build a team that early. Like you could catch a couple of bugs, of birds, a couple of rats.
Because it's Pidgey, it's Rattata, and bugs. Like those between Pallet Town and Pewter City. Oh my God, I feel like such a nerd for knowing all this stuff. But from Pallet Town to Pewter City, there's Pidgey, Rattata, and bugs. And then I guess there's Nidoran, but they're not good against Rock either.
But yeah, exactly. And sometimes Spearows. And then in yellow version, it was the one interesting thing. It was more like the anime. You had to pick Pikachu. And also there was Mankeys, the little monkey guys. They were available in the Bug Forest.
Technically, they're pig monkeys. I found that out when I was playing.
Oh, right, yeah. So they look like
they're
little
pig monkeys.
Yeah, they're like little fat monkeys with like a white hair, but they have like a big pink pig nose right in the face.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they were the only guys. But the only issue with Mankey is that they didn't learn a fight. Like, back in Generation 1, the fighting type moves really weren't until you got to, like, a certain level, like 30-ish almost, where you got an actual fighting move which would be good against the rock type.
Right,
so honestly, your first gym, unless you have Bulbasaur or Squirtle, you're almost, like, you're going to be doing Pewter City a few times.
Right, yeah. Talk to some folks who have who picked Charmander as their franchise player. It's going to take forever. They're going to have to kill a lot of random bugs, a lot of random Nidorans, a lot of random rats and birds. They're just going to have to like be spending hours and hours and hours just killing these little jabronis.
And honestly, you really can't until like you don't get a move. Like honestly, if you like say if you got like Charmander up to like level like when it evolves to Charmeleon, or it's like you still don't get a move that's good against. You just get power and attack power. That's the only thing.
Right.
You take your chances.
Lucky. Right. Exactly. Lucky that he misses. Brock misses a couple times, and and I was type that. Did you avoid the other like minions in the gym, like the lesser trainers? Oh yeah,
I always thought that I thought theirs were like a best way to like train up your Pokemon because they're usually are a higher level. Like trainers usually have higher levels, and beating their Pokemon gives you more experience points than if you just go out and beat a random bug or bird.
Exactly,
like, you get more experience points.
And that gotta get that money. That's another thing about Pokemon. There was always kind of silently a lot of money on the line, you realize, because if you ever lost,
you're a 10-year-old that gambled and selling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that
not only made animals fight, but also like put huge money on the line. Because if you lost, you would all of a sudden realize, okay, there's a lot of money, kind of not in my pocket anymore. But then if you kept winning, you were like, wow, I can afford all kinds of stuff now.
Right, exactly.
They were kind of subtle about it. They were just like, and you got $3,000 from winning. They didn't say this.
From the gym, you'd get like a
paycheck
that we and you have to work for. Like, no, just go battle Brock. You'll get $1,500 just for beating him.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So that kind of
how you would make your living is by your prize money from
right, exactly. And honestly, with Bulbasaur, you really don't have a disadvantage until you get to Gym 7, which is the fire gym. But like you said, by that point, you probably have already caught a like a water type.
Yeah, you've probably diversified your team a little bit especially by 7. That's the second last one. You have your team. You've built a contender for the championship at that point. You probably have a well-balanced team, and especially you need to have some kind of water guy to surf you around. And so
exactly. By that point, right, you need to have a water guy to surf you.
Early on, it's harder. It's just so hard to build a team. Like from scratch. You really have to just rely on your starter, on your franchise player. And so if it's Charmander, going to be real tough to beat Brock because like fire barely does damage against Rock, and then you're going to get your ass handed to you by Misty because she's water and all her minions are water. So
and even if you even go between Pewter and Cerulean, there really isn't there isn't a type that's good against water in that stretch either. If you think about it, like you'd have to go way out of your way to find
either a leaf or an electric. Yeah, it would be tough to find that because I know in the cave there's obviously, if you ever played Pokemon, you know there's a shitload of Zubats that never leave you the hell alone.
The most annoying Pokemon in the fucking world is Zubat.
Exactly. They do not leave you the hell alone. But once in a while, you will find like a Clefairy, which is nice, but it's not specific. It's because it's rare and it's a cute little thing, but it's not specific against water. So, yeah, it's tough. So you are very much more beneficial fighting against picking one of the other, either the water type or the plant type, Squirtle or
right, and if you're lucky enough to get past Brock, and obviously once you get past Brock, there's like you said, there's Mount Moon, which is the mountain between Pewter and Cerulean. Oh my God, dude, you're making me nerd out right now, and I love it. There's Mount Moon between.
Always named after a fancy color. All the towns, and you start off in Palette Town, like an artist's palette, and every other town was named after some fancy color. Let's see. Let's try to name them. All right. So Pewter.
All right, I could, dude. I really can do this. It's going to be scary. So there's Palette Town. There's Pewter City. There's Cerulean City.
Right.
There's Vermilion is 3. Right. Celadon is 4.
Yeah.
SS Anne is the ship. Yep. That's where that is in Vermilion. Then there's Saffron. Lavender. Oh boy, here this is where it gets stuff.
Or no, Vermilion.
Vermilion is 3. We already got them. So we're up to Saffron, Fuchsia.
Celadon.
Celadon is 4, correct. Then there's Fuchsia, which is 5.
Fuchsia. Okay.
Saffron is 6. Oh my God, what is
Cinnabar? The island is Cinnabar Island, right?
Cinnabar Island, yep. And then Viridian City.
Yep.
And I think we got
Indigo but then the Indigo Plateau is where the playoffs are. Yeah.
Yep. So wow, we just did Kanto,
so we got it.
which is the name of the region, by the way. It's called Kanto.
Yeah, Kanto.
You never.
And so that was kind of in going by the type. Let's see how best we can strategize that out because let's see, it's kind of like
Pewter is rock.
Yeah, Pewter is Brock, the rock type. He has like Geodude and Onyx, and then
Geodude and Onyx. Yep, and
Cerulean is Misty.
Is water.
And she has the water type. She's got the
Staryu and
Starfish,
Starmie.
Starmie.
And then Vermilion is electric. He's got, Voltorb. It's Lieutenant Surge.
Yeah,
and he's got Pikachu, Voltorb, and Raichu, I believe. I think are his 3.
Right. Yeah, I remember anime. Ash got his ass kicked a bunch of times by the military guy. And he would brag about it and rub it in.
Right, and that was the episode where he contemplating evolving Pikachu because he wanted, obviously, it was Raichu. And that was the only time, I think, in that series where, Pikachu contemplates evolving. So, and then 4 is Oh my gosh. This is where my nerd starts to go away because I can't think. I know it's grass is the
Oh,
type.
okay. So, oh yeah, she was like this hippie. It was kind of like the feminist.
She's like doing drugs, basically.
No, yeah, it was like the feminist gym because there was no male trainers. It was an all-female staff. You had to fight when you go, and it was like in a big botanical garden, like a giant greenhouse with all these fancy flowers, and all
Right,
women.
yeah, and it was all girls. It was like you said, it's all girls, and there's like 8 of
Right.
them. Like there's a bunch.
And she was always like her eyes were always closed in all the animation, like in the game.
Yeah, like
she was always just like really chilled out. And yeah, there was a ton of women that you had to fight. And what was so annoying about her is because it's plant based. The main strength for plants in Pokemon is not how they attack you, but how they affect you. Like they would try to poison you with some poison powder. They'd try to paralyze you with some powder. They'd try to put you to sleep. All kinds of stuff. They would just screw with your Pokemon. And so it was
even if you had a fire type, they could still just put you to sleep or paralyze you,
right.
and then
Yeah,
they just
so you
keep
think
attacking you as much as
Charmander,
they can.
yeah, if you have like Charmander or something, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna waste these ladies. I'm just gonna burn them to the ground. But it's
Right,
like if they
and
get
then
that
they
one
put you
move
to
in
sleep.
there to paralyze you and you can't move or put you to sleep, or if they poison you, you'll get through a few of them, but eventually you're gonna die because every step you take, it's like, oh, the poison is kind of hurting your guy a little bit.
Exactly.
That was tough, yeah.
And her name's Erica. I just thought of her.
Yeah,
Her name's
that's
Erica.
Yeah.
And she's got a victory bell, which is
Right.
of the evolution of a bell sprout. So it goes bell sprout, weeping bell,
Yeah,
victory bell.
the big yellow. It looked like a big pepper. The big yellow guy.
Yeah, it was a fly eat of what's the name?
Oh yeah, one of
It
those
was a version of a. It was not the. Oh man, because they did like they made a like this is what like a fly. Oh, what's it called? A
Venus
mantis
flytrap.
Venus flytrap, but it wasn't
Venus
the normal
flytrap.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't the normal like two sides meet
It
like
wasn't
a mouse.
the
It was more the
Yeah.
hang down.
Right.
She had
Exactly.
Victory
Yeah,
Bell.
but one of those carnivorous plants. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she had Tangela, which is basically just a bunch of vines. And that's all the
Right. Just
Pokemon
like
was
this
a bunch of
crumbled
vines.
up ball of blue vines with like googly eyes.
Right. yeah. And then Vileplume, which is Oddish Bloom Vileplume or Vileplume.
Yeah, that thing was like
that's the one that poisoned the shit out of you.
Right, yeah, because that had the big fat flower. First it was oddish, and that looked like a little like wheatgrass plant that you'd see in somebody's house. It was just like a blue little bulb with a bunch of green leaves sticking out, and then it became oddish, and that was like this lumpy, almost mushroom-looking plant, and it was always drooling, so it looked kind of gross.
Gloom, yeah.
And then, and gloom, yeah, and then Vileplume was like the big, thick, it was like a flower that hits the gym, like a flower with some muscles on it, and that thing was always screwing you up. You think, okay, I got a fire type, but you can't breathe fire when you're asleep or paralyzed or poisoned.
Exactly.
She was tough. Yeah, that gym, there was a bunch of.
That was definitely and that was definitely, especially if you had Squirtle, because at that point, that's when Squirtle becomes, against Lieutenant Surge is when Squirtle becomes basically like you have to have someone else. Like at that point, you have to catch a Geodude at that point.
Right, you better have diversified your team enough and trained like a number 2. You have your Sidney Crosby. You need an Evgeny Malkin to.
And Malkin, exactly. And then you need, of course, Flurry and everything like that. You need all those.
Yeah, exactly. You need to build like a strong franchise. You can't just be one guy anymore. But if you have Squirtle, then you really got to rely on all your B team. You got to have a good number 2 and some other, maybe try to catch something that is good against plants.
Exactly.
I think birds are good against plants. So maybe one of those weak little Pidgeys that
Pidgeys are bad until the 4th gym, because at that point you would think that it would have leveled up enough to get a flying type move, which is also good again.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so if you got a Pidgey, it'll eventually pay off. It's like it needs some time down in the minors. But once it works its way through the minor leagues, it gets up there, and it will really come in handy at the feminist plant gym. But no, it's kind of a cool concept that like it was an all women gym like that. But yeah, that was the way to
to do it. All right, so after that, I would always kind of get confused once after the fourth one. Who comes next?
Because at that point, what you're supposed to do in Celadon is go to the monster store, which is like 9
Oh yeah, like a huge
something
mall.
like that.
Like it's the biggest. Most buildings aren't all that big in the original Pokemon game, but then all of a sudden in Celadon, it's supposed to be like home of like Mall of America, and there's like this 9 floor. You can even go on the roof, and each floor is packed with people, and each floor sells a different type of thing. So that was a lot of fun.
Exactly. Well, what you're supposed to do once you, like you said, there's that 9th floor. You have to buy a drink of kind, either drinking water, lemonade, or soda pop. And then you're supposed to, because there's little walkways that between each city, and Celadon was able to give you you're supposed to go to the guard and give him the drink, and then he drinks it and says, oh, I'll share this with the other guards so you can go through now. So that's how you're going to get to all the other cities.
You couldn't just freely move city to city, like you couldn't skip these gyms, because each gym you were now able to learn a new skill or something new. And before that, there used to be guards who were like, whoa, you're 10 years old, you can't pass here. Plus, I'm really
they wouldn't do that because no one cares about a 10-year-old in that. By the way,
then they basically go, plus I'm really thirsty. I'm really thirsty. So you okay?
Thirsty. Oh, you can't go. You can't go. It's just closed.
Yeah.
But we forgot one thing. We forgot one thing in our little evolution of gyms is once you get past Lieutenant Surge, you have to go through Rock Tunnel, which is a whole freaking experience in and of itself.
Oh, because it's all dark.
It's dark as fuck, and you don't know you can learn Flash, but it's dark as fuck in that place.
Right, you learn
and
the
you can't
skill
see shit.
Flash, which means like if you have an electric type or certain other types, they will light the way and it becomes kind of normal for you. But it's tough because Flash is useless in battle. So like when you teach
all does is
Flash,
blind and basically accuracy.
Right, exactly.
Like I was always the type of trainer that I would never learn a move that didn't cause damage. Like I'd have the moves you start with when you catch the Pokemon, but then once you get them or once you get the move, it's like after that, if they like, oh, I want to learn Light Screen, it's like fuck Light Screen, he doesn't do shit, so they don't learn that.
Yeah, no,
they don't learn Light Screen.
Some people these days would be like, they want to play Moneyball. They want to be Billy Bean in the Oakland A's and be like, well, actually, you need all those to lower their stats. Like, I don't care about lowering their stats. I just want to fight, man. I don't care about. I want
to kill them and kick their ass. When their accuracy is down, who gives a shit? They're dead.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. Pokemon don't die. They faint.
Oh yeah, they faint. But yeah,
no Pokemon ever dies.
Yeah, swing away. Don't try to get a walk. None of this Oakland A's Moneyball bullshit. Hit a home run every time. That's what That's what I want you to.
That's what you're here for.
Yeah.
And then you get through Rock Tunnel, which is basically another Mount Moon, where there's a bunch of fucking Zubats.
Yeah,
there's trainers you can't
see. Don't have Flash. Right.
Yeah, and there's trainers in there that have Pokemon.
Yeah, the funniest thing, you'd be walking in the dark, and it'd scare the shit out of you, because anytime somebody wants to fight in Pokemon, a big exclamation point pops out of their head. So it'd be this completely black screen, and all of a sudden you hear da-ding, and like an exclamation point out of nowhere. How did this happen?
Hey, trainer! Fuck you! I wish that was an option in Pokemon. Like, if you didn't want to fight, like, the X-rated version of the game, like, hey, trainer, fuck you!
Yeah, just
kick them in the balls and run or something like that. Yeah. Or if they're a girl, just run, because you can't kick girls in the balls.
Bug catcher Joey wants to fight. Fuck off.
Well, fuck Joey. His mother's a whore, and his father's a turkey.
Bicycle rider Gerald wants to duel. Well,
your mother doesn't love you.
Yeah,
we're terrible. We got to rewrite a Pokemon game that's like R-rated.
Where you don't have to fight people. You can just tell them to fuck off.
You don't have the choice. Like, fuck you.
Cindy, the
Bug catcher Joey wants to fight. Fuck you. So you get through Rock Tunnel finally, and then you go into Lavender Town, which doesn't have a gym, but it is very.
I will never forget the music of Lavender Town. There was 2 songs
It's
that
actually
played when
voted as the scariest, like if you're listening to that, people, voted on YouTube, and they voted that get freaked out, it's like little, do, 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 and it's like doing all that stuff, and then you get into
good
the
impression.
Dude, I played this yesterday, so I know all this. This is how I know most of this stuff. I'm such a nerd when it comes to Pokemon, and I absolutely love it. Like, I have T-shirts with Pokemon. I have the games. Like, I am all Pokemon. I don't care that I'm 26 freaking years old. This is what I grew up on. Like, if it was Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto, nobody would think I'm weird, because that's normal stuff that kids are into nowadays. It's like, the fact that it's Pokemon was that makes it weirder. Like,
but, yeah, that's right. Yeah, but
our
I
age
will
group
never
is
forget.
the one that loved it.
Yeah, well, because it first came to America when we were kids. But yeah,
Exactly,
I will never
right.
forget the music of Lavender Town, because again, that was like the town. It was like the Lilydale of Pokemon. It was just the town for a bunch of mediums, like psychics who can talk to the dead. And there was this. It was creepy enough walking around the town, but then there was this giant building that was like the Pokemon graveyard. And you go in, and apparently every Pokemon that ever died, has to be buried in this giant cemetery. And the music changes and gets even, maybe even more creepy in there. And then you fight a bunch of mediums who all have ghost Pokemon. And then you keep seeing ghosts, but you can't see them at first. You have to, buy these, paranormal goggles.
Saffron, you have to go through, it's really complicated. You have to go through, in Celadon City in the gaming corner, there's a Rocket, Team Rocket, which is another thing we haven't gotten to yet, but they're all around. There's little heists from Team Rocket, and you have to go through their little hideout in Celadon City. And at the end of it, you battle Giovanni, which is their leader. And
right,
if you
beat
him,
trying to be like the mafia. Or in Japan, it's the
Team Rocket's the mafia.
America,
you are correct.
Yeah, especially because they had Giovanni. They give him an Italian name, of course, and give him a suit. So I guess in Japan, it's the Yakuza is what they call the mafia, and then here we have the different ethnic mafias, but the Italian mafia is the most famous because of Al Capone and that. So Giovanni's kind of like Al Capone, and his goons, Team Rocket, they're always doing some kind of heist or conspiracy or something like that.
Right. Right. So you got to go through that,
up.
And then once you beat Giovanni, you get what's called a stealth scope, and the scope allows you to see the Pokemon. I don't know how, but it does. And
some kind of
that's one of the things that's not explained. Which is something we'll get to in a little while once we get through our run through of Pokemon here is why we got on this topic originally. But so yeah, you got to go through that, and then you get the Silph Scope, and then you go through Pokemon Tower, and then you get to see all the Pokemon. But the thing about
paranormal goggles, so because at first the ghost would show up, and it would just be you're facing a ghost. Even though all kids knew there were 3 kinds of ghost Pokemon. There was Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar. But it would just be this generic ghost, and then you'd try to fight it and be you're too scared to move, better run away. So that's all you could do. But now you get these goggles, this Silph Scope thing. Now they don't show up as generic ghosts. It's Ghastly attack, Haunter attack, Gengar attack, etc.
So you go through the whole tower, and then you get to the point there's a set of stairs that goes up to the last level of it, and there's it's the ghost of Cubone's mother, which is really fucking weird. It's not
it's so
Cubone's
specific.
Cubone is a ground type Pokemon, which they make it seem like there's only one. There's Cubone and there's Marowak. Those are the two. Cubone, and then Cubone evolves into Marowak. But it seems like in this game there's only one. There's the Cubone and then there's Marowak. And Cubone apparently it's its own Pokemon, but it's so sad about the death of its mother, which is this Pokemon, this ghost you're gonna fight, and it wears the skull of its mother. It's so freaking weird. Cubone is just one of those weird Pokemon. But you get to that point, you can't catch it, which kind of sucks because it's a level 30 Marowak, and at that point, a level 30 Pokemon's a pretty good Pokemon to have at that point in the game.
And what a great, a real strong ground type. That would really balance out your team. That's your getting
at that point,
right there.
Definitely. And it's but you have to beat it. So you beat it, and then you're able to go up the stairs, and Team Rocket's there, and they're holding Mr. Fuji hostage. Like that's the whole
you're
story
you're
of
supposed to care about this guy. Like they don't like reference him at all. It's just like now you got to save Mr. Fuji. Like
Mr. Fuji.
know who the hell this is. But
I think he ends up giving you
though.
something. He ends up giving you something, right? Yeah.
Is he the one who gives you the Poke Flute?
I think so because this is the next part of the story. Once you beat Pokemon Tower, and then you can get to the different cities. There's a Snorlax, or there's Snorlaxes because there's more than one blocking the way.
Yeah, there's two.
Right, and for you to continue, so you need the Poke Flute to wake up the Snorlax, which is another Pokemon that it's normal, but it's really heavy. So once it learns Body Slam, it kills Pokemon.
And the thing is that tank, it's so hard to
huge,
take down. It takes even like the strongest Pokemon have to really hit it over and over to do much damage.
Exactly, it's a really good Pokemon to have. Like it's really
right,
good.
really long line of health. So that thing's good. So yeah, there's a few things that block your path. Sometimes it'd be a little tree, and you have to wait till you beat a certain gym leader, then you can finally teach cut to Pokemon. Sometimes it's big boulders. You got to finally beat somebody to learn strength. Sometimes the tunnel guards, you got to learn Flash. Sometimes those thirsty guards were like, you can't go through here, plus I'm thirsty. So you buy the guy a damn lemonade, and he's like, oh, this is good. I'm going to share this one can of lemonade.
Exactly. It's in the other going to share the one can, right?
Yeah, like they're miles away from him. He's going to make sure he doesn't spill it.
Here, let me throw it to you.
As he runs around, he's going to make sure he doesn't spill the damn thing.
Exactly, right. And then,
but then the guards don't through with you anymore. You know, you walk past, like, hey, you can go through. You gave us a simple
thanks for the drink. Or no, I think he's saying like gulp, gulp. Oh, you can go through, gulp, 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 gulp.
Right,
he's
yeah.
He's drinking like uncontrollably.
He's still slurping the can of
exactly,
lemonade.
Right.
But yeah,
I think at this point there's, is it 7 or is it 5? I think it's 5 HM, which is another thing. There's, oh my God, I don't even know the technical names. I know there's HMs and there's TMs. There's technical machines, which is what TM is. I don't know what HM stands for, but HMs are moves that you can't unlearn. Like once you learn them, you learn them. That's it. The TMs are different. You can teach them, but you can also like delete them if they want to learn something new. But there's Flash.
Is the guy who gives you the Poke Flute. But
right,
anyway,
exactly, yeah. So, we're back on that. Yeah, we're going all over the place with the story.
Right.
People who are like, I gotta learn how to do Pokemon. Gotta learn how to do Pokemon. And by the way, this is only generation 1. There's like 4 generations after this that are they're totally different stories. Which, hey, maybe we should do a 4 or 5 part series and just go through all of them. But
from the best of our memory, try to explain them all. Yeah.
Exactly.
But
anyway, so we're at
HMs, you can use them an unlimited amount of time as well. Like
that
HMs,
too.
you can learn.
TM's only one time
everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's
I always didn't like to use TMs because I always felt guilty. I always figured once I teach this to somebody, it was so hard to get and it was really or very expensive. Once I teach it to somebody, I'm going to be like, oh, damn it, I shouldn't have used it on them. I should have used it on somebody else. So I have this whole collection full of TMs that I never use.
I would never use TMs. I'm with you. I'd never, unless it's like a move that could like make a normal type better. Because normal types suck. Like at the end of the day, they're the worst type of Pokemon.
The only good thing about them is that they're tanks when it comes to defense. Like they really need to take a beating in order to go down.
Yeah.
But they didn't have that creative an attack, so you had to like teach them. They didn't organically learn how to like make any creative attacks. You had to teach it to them. Most other types, they organically learned a creative attack, and I was more like let them organically learn what nature intended.
Right, exactly, right. So we get the Snorlaxes out of the way, and then you're able to go to Gym 5, which is Fuchsia City. And Fuchsia City is known for one thing or two things. One is that their gym leader Koga, which I thought was an awesome name when I was a kid, but his name's Koga.
Oh yeah, and he
was poison.
Like a ninja. Yeah, that guy was.
Yep.
Cool. Their whole thing was poison. So it was a lot like Erica, the plant feminist. like instead Koga and his like band of ninjas, it was all about poison. So as soon as you step foot in that gym, every single trainer, every other ninja you tried to face was trying to poison you some way. So that because in Pokemon the way it worked is if a Pokemon was poisoned, even after the battle ends, every step you take, like the screen would kind of flash, and with that flash,
And it would make a noise, yeah.
or yeah, it would make a noise, and it was kind of like the screen would vibrate a little bit in case your volume wasn't up. But that was just to let you know a little bit of their health bar, like that showed how close they were to dying, got a little shorter every time. And if you just kept walking without healing the poor guy, eventually it'd be like so and so fainted, he was poisoned.
Exactly, and then it's also known for the Safari Zone. Safari Zone it holds a certain. We're both waiting. We're like, all right, no, he'll start talking. No, you'll start talking.
Okay. Yeah, this is almost kind of tough. The phone isn't as convenient as in person, but yeah, that thing was interesting because it was like this giant nature preserve, but you only were full of a bunch of rare Pokemon you can't catch anywhere else. But a bunch of catches, a bunch of things here. It was the only time you did not have your own Pokemon with you, your own people, but you had to turn those in at the gate. And then you could only stay a certain amount of time in the Safari Zone. You couldn't use your own Pokeballs that you bought. You had to use Safari Balls. And you only had a certain amount of time. And by time, it's not really time on the clock, it's steps. So you only could walk a certain amount of steps in the Safari Zone before they were like, all right, time's up. So so it's very interesting like that. But it was cool because when you faced them, instead of having your Pokemon weaken them, you had to either bribe them or something like. Sometimes you throw a ball and you just catch it. Sometimes you throw a ball and it said it's too far away, so you could either throw some bait and so it would move a little closer, or throw a rock, which I don't know why they
and
had
piss the fuck off this.
Yeah, just to say fuck off. But sometimes they were assholes. Because it'd be a really rare one. You'd be like, oh, it's a Dratini, or it's like a Kangaskhan, or it's some really rare thing you can't find anywhere else that you could barely find in the nature preserve. And then as soon as you'd see it, it'd be like, you found a Dratini. Dratini got scared and ran away. You'd be like, damn it.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, son of a bitch. Or it'd be like, all right, now I need to get this thing closer. You threw bait. It got scared of the bait. It's like, well, what did you want from me, man?
Yeah, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing about the Safari Zone was that you have to, in the 500 steps, which I think was the limit, you had to find three things. You had to find gold teeth to give some old guy.
Oh yeah, there's this old guy who's trying to talk to you, but he doesn't have his dentures are lost. So like he tries to talk and he just talks like so you're like, oh, gotta find this old bastard's teeth so he can tell me something. And then eventually you learn surf, so you can now travel across the water.
Right, that's the other thing. You gotta find the prize house or whatever. And then he's like, oh, you found the house. Now you can learn surf. And if you get the gold guy's teeth, then you get strength. Those are two things you need.
Oh, but there's two special moves there. Yeah. So if there's a boulder in your way, you have strength, and if you want to cross the ocean, you have surf.
Exactly. So then once you get all that done, then you got to beat Fusus. So you got to beat Koga. And what you don't know when you get there is you have to go in, and then everyone looks like the gym leader, and you don't know it's the gym. Like if you played it long enough, then you know which one's Koga. But
right, but yeah,
don't know.
Like typical ninja, they're all like in disguise, and there's all these glass walls, so you think like, oh, it's just an open floor plan. I can just walk towards them, but you keep bumping into like it looks like nothing, but it's really like a maze of glass walls. So you got to like be really particular and like walking the right way.
Yeah.
Plus, they all look like it's like, oh, finally I got the Koga. Nope, just another jabroni that he hired to weaken me.
Right, and they all have poison and if you get poisoned, you have to go back and heal because it is basically pointless to go all the way to Koga with a poisoned Pokemon because your ass is going to get beat. It's a guarantee.
Right, yeah. And who did and
then
remember what specific Pokemon he had? I know he had a moth, and that's how he poisoned a lot of people. Venom moth. Who else?
No, unfortunately, no, he didn't have those, but he had Coughings, which are basically
right.
balls
Like
of
a cloud
gas,
of poison gas. Yeah.
right? And then he had their evolved form, which is a wheezing, which is basically a big coughing and a smaller coughing put like kind of fused together. And then he had what was called a muck, which is an evolution of Grimer.
Right. So
And a muck is what poisoned the shit out of you.
Yeah. It's just like big like pile of shit, like a like a big like
sludge, like basically, which is one of his moves called sludge
with a mouth and some eyes. Yeah.
Right, and the only type that is super effective against poison is psychic type, which ironically is the next gym over, which is gym number 6, which is in Saffron City. But before you can even go into Saffron City's gym, you have to beat Team Rocket again at the company, at the Slipco company. And that is that is where you start start transitioning to, okay, this is starting to get to the end of the game where you're starting to prepare for the Elite Four, the final battle with your rival, who pops in here and there during the game. Like, he pops up in Cerulean City, he pops up on the SS Anne, he pops up, we'll get to the other two, because I think they're after the 8th gym. But he pops up in this like, when you're going and confronting Team Rocket, he confronts you when you're on when you're on one of the floors or something like that. And the weird thing there's two weird things about the when you're fighting Team Rocket. There's these little pads that you walk on, and it literally transports you to another part of the building, which in reality that's not freaking possible. So that was
they're like little
it's like a square with like a diamond in it almost. Like those are like little walkways.
In Saffron City, that's supposed to imply some kind of psychic thing, because the Saffron Gym's theme is like psychic power. So like you step on it and you get like telepathically transported somewhere. So that's the explanation for that. But I don't get how Team Rocket, because they're not inherently psychic people. They're just the mafia.
Right.
So I don't get why they're.
And then the other thing is they have these little they're like rectangles with arrows pointing, and if you step on them, it basically spins you and then takes you on a little ride to take you to like an end point. Yeah, and those are so hard to get through.
Like an extremely fast like sidewalk, like moving sidewalk, and if you stepped on it, but you had to be strategic. If you stepped on one arrow and you couldn't stop in the middle of it, you just kept your momentum carried you until you hit a wall. So you had to be very strategic on like, all right, which arrow do I step on if I'm trying to get to this wall? I can't just step on it because it might take me to a circle. It might lead me to the exit. Or if I play my cards right and I kind of figure out the whole maze and everything, then it'll take me where I want to go.
Exactly. And then, you said you got to be strategic. And then you also have to find this elevator key from like one of the rockets when you beat him. It's like, oh no, I dropped the elevator key. And then, like a little Pokeball appears behind him, which is kind of ironic. It's like, oh, you shit that out. That's great. I'm going to grab this now. And then so you got to go through that whole kit and caboodle. And then you get to the end where you fight Giovanni again. And he kind of shows off his team a little bit because he ends up being the 8th gym leader. But you have to, you beat Giovanni twice before you actually face him a third time where a gym badge is at stake. And then once you beat him, all the Rockets leave Saffron City. You go to the guy, like the owner of the company is holding hostage, and he ends up giving you, I believe, a Master Ball at that point, which is a ball that if you throw it at a Pokemon, it catches it. I guarantee.
Right, the infallible ball. Because there's a hierarchy. First you get Pokeballs, and they're cheap, and you can catch a weak Pokemon with it, but they still might break out. Then you get Great Balls, a little more expensive. Ultra Balls, pretty expensive, but they're more reliable to catch a Pokemon. But even still, you throw a bunch of Ultra Balls, and the thing could be really obnoxious and still break out. The thing could be asleep with one single percentage of health left, and it's busting
and still jump out.
Ultra Balls. And you're like, God damn it, dude. But
you motherfucker!
Yeah, a Master Ball is infallible. No matter what, you will catch what you're trying to catch with the thing.
Exactly. So, and then once you get through all that, you go back out, and then Saffron City's open. And like you said, there's 8 little, it's basically a tic-tac-toe grid, and each thing has a trainer in it, and 4 of those little squares that we were talking about earlier, which basically transports you to another section of the gym. And you got it, like, you don't know, unless you cheat, but you don't know, like, which one takes you where. So you kind of have to, like, go to each one and see what happens. And then eventually you get to the middle one, which has Sabrina, which ironically, Sabrina the Teenage Witch is what I always thought of when I heard. But Sabrina is the gym leader of the 6th gym. And of course, you find out that Psychic is her, like, the whole gym is Psychic. It's like you said before, the whole gym either has Psychic or Ghost Pokemon, or like the thing, but Sabrina mostly has, Sabrina has Psychic Pokemon. She's got Kadabra, Mr. Mime, which is basically a human, that's a mime, Venomoth.
Right, yeah, that guy always freaked me out, because, like, and he's, like, the older Pokemon. He goes by Mr.
Yeah, Mr.
He's
Mime.
like a person.
And he actually, when he says his name, it's kind of funny. He's like, Mr. Mime! Like, he goes, like, all creepy high voice and everything like that. I think it's kind of
he
funny.
always creeped me out, yeah. But, yeah, so that was a hard gym to go to, because you had to teleport your way across it, and you never knew which one you were going to get to next. You had to keep teleporting, and Psychic Pokemon were always difficult to fight because they didn't have a direct weakness, and their attacks were effective against almost anybody, no matter who you put out there.
Exactly.
Like, they were just using your mind and, like, throwing you around and stuff. It was really tough to crack. It was really hard to find a good matchup.
Not until, you are absolutely correct, because not until Generation 2 is there a type that can beat a Psychic or a Ghost. There is in Generation 1, there is no type that is super effective against Psychic or Ghost Pokemon. In Generation 2, there's what's called a Dark type. And Dark is what is super effective against Psychic and Ghost Pokemon. So in Generation 1, when you have a Psychic Pokemon, it doesn't have a weakness, basically. Like, it could have, like basically you have to hit it with everything you got to actually, like, beat a Psychic type. So basically, your SOL, no matter, unless you take advantage, like, the only Pokemon that has a secondary type is a Venomoth, which is the next Pokemon she has, which is a bug type, so you can kind of, like, say, okay, I'll use my fire type, or, like, and that's, like, you can use a fire type.
Bird type.
That one. Bird type too as well. But other than that, like, she has Kadabra, Mr. Mime, Venomoth, and then Alakazam, because it's Abra, Kadabra, Alakazam. That's kind of ironic. Someone really thought hard about those names. But, so she's got those 4 Pokemon, and once you beat her, then you have to teach a Pokemon surf. You gotta surf all the way down to, like you said, Cinnabar Island is gym number 7. And basically you have to go all the way back to Pallet Town. By this point, you should have found a way to teach a Pokemon Fly, because that's HM2, which I believe you can get by going outside Celadon City. There's like a little house or something that says, wow, you must have worked hard to get here. Well, I wonder if you had a way to get around without having to walk. Oh, wait, I know a way. And she gives you, like, HM2. It's like, well, you're a little bitch that kind of strung me along. Why don't you just give it to me? Give me HM2. Don't tell me, oh, I wish you had a way to walk around. Oh, wait, I know a way you can walk around. Here you go. Or not walk around. Here
Fly,
you go.
right?
Yeah, that's Fly, right? You could teach that. And
Yeah,
that's when
the thing with Fly
really becomes a good Pokemon.
It's so valuable, because before it was just the paint. You did so much walking or bicycling or whatever. It was so hard to get place to place. But now Fly, like, you can't, like, see yourself, like, you can't control yourself while you're flying, but you just pick a destination, and any city you've previously been to, as long as you've been to the hospital and healed your Pokemon there, you can have permission to land there. So that's pretty cool.
Exactly. So what you do is you fly from Saffron City. Well, actually, there's like a side story you can do, and still in Saffron, because there's a gym next to the gym. There's like a Saffron City gym, and then if you go next door, there's another gym. It's not a badge gym, but if you go there, and it's all fighting type. So you go and you beat there's like 4 goons.
Oh, and there's Saffron City's supposed to be like the biggest city. It was supposed to be like the capital, like the Tokyo of this region. It's like every building is a skyscraper. It's really cool looking, because usually one city has maybe one multi-level building. This has like skyscrapers all over the place. You can only go into a couple of them, but it's pretty cool to see, like, a huge city. And it's kind of like how New York has the Yankees and the Mets, or, you know, Chicago has the Cubs and the White Sox. this was supposed to be like, okay, this has two gyms, the psychic and the fighting. Ironic.
Exactly.
The types, one is all in the mind, the other is all in the body. But yeah, so they
and
have,
ironically,
like,
one gym could kick the other gym's ass if it really wanted to.
Right.
Fighting
Like,
type are extremely weak against psychic types.
Yeah, so if there was a Subway series, we all know who would win.
Exactly, right. So you beat the four goo, and then you beat, I don't know the guy's name, but if you beat him, you get to pick between Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan is the punching type, Hitmonlee is the kicking type. And they're two fighting type Pokemon. It really doesn't, honestly, I never really cared because you get them at a weird point, and they both really don't know many moves. You just get them and then you put them in your Pokemon, like, storage system, basically. Take up a gigabyte of data and just throw them in the storage system. And then you just go about your business. So what you do is then you fly from Saffron and you fly back home to Pallet Town. Or you can actually, there's two options. You can surf from Fuchsia City or you can surf from Pallet Town, but eventually you go down. And then you got to converge on Cinnabar Island.
Yeah, it's kind of funny knowing all this time the second last franchise you got to play, the Fire franchise, was in Island, just off the coast of your very first town. But until you had somebody who could surf, you had no way of getting there. So yeah,
exactly, I think you have to beat, like, each time you beat a gym member, like, they give you the ability to do something. Like, some of them is, okay, now you can use surf outside of battle. Or some is, a level 30 Pokemon will obey you. Up to level 50, level 70.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they wanted to make sure you couldn't, like, just have a guy who could just trade with somebody who already had an advanced game, somebody who could fly and then just fly all over the place, surf all over the place. You needed to earn it by a badge. And you couldn't just, like, start a game and then get a bunch of people with extremely high levels into your game and do that, just dominate everybody. Like, if you got in, like, your very first time you got a trade and you don't have any badges yet, immediately it'll be like, this Pokemon doesn't respect you, you don't have badges, it won't obey you. So it was just a precaution against cheating, pretty much.
Right, yeah, and it was like in the anime, if you remember the anime series, like, Ash had a Charizard, and it would never listen to him, and their joke was always,
he didn't have enough. It evolved so fast that it didn't respect him yet. He didn't have the badges for it.
Exactly. And so you get to Cinnabar Island, and you realize you can't get into the gym, like, it's locked. So you have to go
I forgot about that, right.
And you have to go to, like a house, I don't know what it is, like a rich house or something. Like, there's another building, like, next door to the gym, and you have to go in and you have to, like, search around. And in this one,
it's all burned out, right? Yeah, they were like, this.
It's a burned house, yeah. I think so.
This house is completely burned out. It's like this abandoned old mansion. So
it's a man. I know it's a mansion. I don't know if the original games, if it's burned. I know it might be in the later games. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
But
I'm pretty sure
I think this one's a mansion. I know it's a mansion. I don't know if it's burned down yet or not. I know there's a mansion.
Oh, okay.
But you go through the mansion and there's like Grimers, Mucks, Coffins, Ponytas. Like, there's all these types of Pokemon that are really
a bunch
cool.
Of
fire and poison type in there. And eventually you get the key to the gym.
Oh yeah, and wasn't it like a library? Because I remember like really interesting there was like these books laid out and you would read them and they were kind of like almost spoilers or like really interesting facts that you didn't know before then. It's like, did you know that Mew, the rarest Pokemon, gave birth to Mewtwo and no one knows where he is yet? Like all these things revealing like the final twists at the end and stuff.
Right, because there's that building, there's the mansion which we were talking about. And there's also the Science Center, which is below, which is next to the Pokemon Center, which is where you, like you said, you find all this stuff.
The very first city you go to, Pewter City, the Rock City, you can go to the Science Museum, and they got some exhibits, and then one of the scientists says, like, hey, you want a fossil or something? And
that's in Mount Moon. Yep, you're right.
Oh, yeah, right. And then you fight, like, one guy you choose between the fossils, and you don't know what they're going to turn into, because there was a little crop of extinct Pokemon that were like these prehistoric things you only heard about.
Amistar and Kabuto. Yep.
Yeah, Amistar
and Kabuto.
You picked which. There's a lot of choosing. You pick your franchise player from the big three.
Then when you face the scientists from the museum in Mount Moon, you pick either the Amistar fossil or the Kabuto fossil, and then you have to wait all the way until Cinnabar Island where they use this Jurassic Park technology and bring it back to life.
Yeah, and it doesn't work right away. That's why the strategy is you get to Cinnabar Island, you give your fossil to the scientist, and then you go do what you gotta do and get the key or whatever to the gym, and then you go back and you have your Kabuto. I apologize. Omnistar is the evolved form. It's Omnite, I believe is the original. Right. And then Amistar, and then
another choice you make is in that fighting gym, the Mets of Santa.
The Hitmonchan or the Hitmonlee, right? Yep.
Right, yeah.
There's a lot of choosing. You can literally have 6 Pokemon just by the choices you got to make throughout the game. You got your original starter, you got the Omnite or Kabuto, Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee. And then you can get an Eevee by going somewhere. You can get a Lapras by getting some. There's your 6 Pokemon, right there. You don't even have to catch a single Pokemon, and you can have your whole team right there, basically. You had 6 Pokemon just by looking.
Right.
Although that would be very difficult to go through the game with one Pokemon. So you do all that, and then you get to the gym, and it's basically they all have fire type, or they all have fire type basically. But the cool thing about the Cinnabar Island, right? The cool thing about the Cinnabar Island gym is that you can either battle the trainer or you can take a quiz. There's a little machine where it can ask you a question, and if you answer the 3 questions right, it'll just open the door, and you don't have to battle the trainer. I always battle the trainer because it's that's just so much easier.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. But I was the type that I wanted to do both because I wanted the experience of battling the trainer. I never liked to walk away from or avoid a battle because it was always a great experience for your team.
Exactly.
But also, I always thought the quiz was kind of neat too, so I would try to do both. I would open the door and then I'd go fight the guy.
Right, exactly. And they're probably so confused, what the fuck you doing? Anyway, so you do all. There's 7 trainers. I think there's 7 trainers or so, and so you go through and then you beat them all or do those quizzes. Then you get to Blaine, who is the 7th gym leader, and he's the fire type guy. He's got Growlithe. I know he's got the 2 fire horses, Ponyta and Rapidash. I think he's got an Arcanine, so I think he's got the 2 evolutions. He's got Growlithe and Arcanine are an evolution, and then Ponyta and Rapidash are an evolution. So those are his 4. And basically at this point, if you got Squirtle or you have a water type, that's why I would like to go through the gym if I was trying to up-train a water type. Whether it's my Squirtle, Wartortle, or Blastoise, or if it's another water type that I'm just trying to up-train, I would just take that one water type, and that would be the only Pokemon I'd use for the whole, going through the 7 trainers or so, and then I'd get my other Pokemon and go battle Blaine. So it's that way, an easy way to level up. It's just take him to a place where there's, he's a fire type, go to the grass gym and just burn the shit out of people. Or if he's a water type, go to the fire gym and just let him blow bubbles at him. Or something like that, something to that effect. Or if he's an electric type, take him to the islands that are next to Cinnabar Islands, which is where, it's all water type, basically. And it's, I'm trying to think of the names of them. I know, it's not essential to your story, but it's one of your things you can do in the game is go to these islands. And there's
a bunch of little side quest things because there's the cruise ship. You go on the cruise ship and that's kind of fun. And then there's the power plant. Usually they lead to getting either important item or a really cool Pokemon. There's the power plant you go to and it's this hidden abandoned power plant. Bunch of electric Pokemon and toxic Pokemon like Grimer and Muck and that. But at the end, then you get Zapdos, the magical legendary electric bird. And then same with Cinnabar Island, there's all these ice types that they're these frozen underground islands.
Right, the ones next door. I think they're called sea something islands, I would think. But Articuno, I think, is the bird. Seafoam Island. Yeah, and I think Articuno is the one bird there.
You get the icy bird. Yeah. And then same with on your way to the playoffs, you get the Firebird, Moltres.
Moltres is in the Victory Road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to climb this mountain of Victory Road and get that guy. And then
and so those lead to those are 3 legendary birds, and each generation has its legendaries. There's the 3 type legendaries, fire, electric, and ice. I believe are the 3 main types throughout. and then there's the like middle ground legendary, which is in this generation it's Mewtwo, and then Mewtwo, which is way down the road, which we'll get to in a little bit. But like Mewtwo's that like kind of middle, like it's the ultimate legendary, basically.
Right. He's built. He's like not even an organic Pokemon. He was created in a lab by the Team Rocket, the Mafia, to try to use this ultimate weapon, this like unstoppable psychic killing machine. But then they make it too smart, and it turns on them, and now it's living by itself in this hidden cave somewhere.
Right. So speaking of Team Rocket, you get back. You got 7 badges. Your team's getting pretty well set, and you got Gym 8, which is the mob boss, which is Giovanni. This is the 3rd time you're battling him, and he is mostly ground type. Which again,
right.
you have. At this point, it's not as bad because at this point you should have a pretty good team together of multiple types.
Right, you should have basically have your contenders. Like you should be ready for the playoffs and have a good, well balanced team where you have a diverse group of types and not just 1 or 2 at a high level. You should have balanced it out and have a couple. Of course, your franchise player is almost always going to be the highest level, but you should have some guys behind them. Maybe even some legendary. Legendaries are like that big free agent that a sports franchise signed. Like catching a Zapdos or a Articuno is like that huge like signing that you got that really boosts.
Like a huge boost to your team, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like at that point in the game, like you already have you should have at least 6 Pokemon by that point in the game. So you're like almost faced with the like, okay, I caught him. Do I use them or do I just say, okay, I caught him and then I'll use them at some point? Not for my original run through the Elite Four and finals, but like okay, a secondary or a 3rd time. Okay, just to say I used Articuno or I used Zapdos or I used Moltres or Mewtwo. Like it's kind of a difficult decision because at that point in the game, like you said, you have your guys. You're going to the 6th or the 8th gym to fight Giovanni, who's mostly ground type. But, I mean, at that point, you're basically like, okay, I got my guys. They're really leveled up. They're really good. And you go battle him, and he's got 5 Pokemon, which I believe is the most that any gym leader has is 5. Because Tutor and Cerulean, Brock and Misty each have 2. Vermilion and Celadon each have 3. Fuchsia and Saffron each have 4. Fuchsia, Saffron, and Cinnabar each have 4. And then Viridian, your last gym, the 8th gym, has 5. And he's got He's got Rhyhorn. He's got Dug Trio, which is basically 3 old dicks with eyes. You got Nido Queen, Nido King, and then Rhydon. And then basically, if you have a water type, it can beat all of them. So basically, it's a really easy gym if you got water types. But it's really funny though about that gym is that like the like goons, like the extra people that you fight on the way, like they're not all ground type. It's what's kind of funny. Like usually
because they're supposed to be. Yeah, it's a tough gym because you can't just load up like make your lineup top heavy to like, all right, we're all going to match up against one specific type because these are all a bunch of criminals who just either stole or caught random types. So they all have diverse groups and teams themselves. So it's hard to prepare for because you don't have one theme to consistently match up against.
Right, exactly. So basically what most people would do would be like go through the goons and then go back to the Pokemon Center and just go get your go set up your team that like beats the ground types really good, which would be water, grass, instead everything like that. So you beat him, you're all good, you got your 8 badges, you're good to go to the Elite Four, and then what happens? But because ironically, Viridian City, like you said with Cinnabar Island, like the 7th gym is just a surf away. Viridian City is literally the first city you walk to, because you have to go through Viridian City to get to Viridian Forest and eventually get to Pewter City. So there's Viridian City, and then that's the 8th gym, but then right next to Viridian City is the Elite Four, or Indigo Plateau. It's just kind of funny how, like, right in the beginning is your main, like, your guys where they gotta go, or the place where you gotta go. And so you go next door, you go, like, walk a little bit to the left of Viridian City, and then you meet your rival. And ironically, when I first played the games, I thought, okay, that's the last time I'm going to fight my rival. Because it's like right before the Elite Four. It's usually,
yeah, right before the playoffs, you fight this guy, and it's kind of cool because your progress is always kind of similar to his progress in that, like, his franchise, he's got his franchise player, and he's got a nice diverse team built around it. Usually he has
exactly.
like a good flying type, a good psychic type, this and that. So it's kind of cool how you always almost match up and stuff.
Exactly,
and I think one of the only
so you got to
guys
get through him.
Fight, he's one of the only guys you fight who has a full lineup of 6.
Right, and it's not just exactly right, and it's not just one. Like you said, it's not just one type. It's a multitude of types. So you really, unless you know the types before you go in, you really can't plan on going through
it's a
each
tough
one.
battle because they're all good and well balanced too. So he's always a tough opponent.
Right. So you got to go through him. And once you get through him, you go through the Elite Four, and then there's 8 guards that make sure you got the gym badges. So there's your another, like you're saying, like a guard against cheaters. Like you can't go through each. There's like 8 guards.
You can't sneak into the playoff arena early because like one guard will be like, wait, I'm just here to make sure people got their boulder badge. You got it? All right, you can go. And like each different like section has another guard waiting for approval of one thing. So you can't just walk in. The guard will not let you through unless you have that.
Right. And so you go through the guards, and then you get to Victory Road, which is, it's funny because in this game, it's actually, like in this Generation 1, it's really complicated, and you really got to know what you're doing. But then if you get to Generation 2, it's literally 2 levels, and you're there. I just think that's always, I always thought that was kind of funny. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like a mountain that you got to climb.
It is really tough. You got to know strength, and you got to be able to fight a high level, at least 40. All the Pokemon in Victory Road are at least at 40. And this is where if you're not like totally happy with like the levels of some of your Pokemon, like maybe they're in their mid 30s and it's like, okay, you just kind of been scraping by and they just kind of been that 4th line player that's like, all right, you're here, but you really don't contribute to my overall success, since you're doing the hockey metaphors. They're like one of your 4th line guys that, they're good in a situation, but they're really not overall on your team. Like this is a good place where you can like maybe catch another Pokemon that might like fit right in, because they're all 40 and above. Like it's Gravelers, it's Onyxes, it's randomly Golducks randomly appear.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like random ass Golducks. Yeah, this is kind of like getting that like trade deadline player. Like you need one more decent guy right before the playoffs to like put you over the edge. This is actually a good field to get your trade deadline acquisition.
Right, and if you're happy with all your guys, they're more to help your guys get better, because you can actually train with these Pokemon too.
Right, yeah, you can really beef up your guys, pad the
team before you go in, yeah. And then like the one thing about like the Victory Road that you like have to do is that there's like barriers throughout some places, and you have to use strength to push the boulders onto like what looks like a little switch, and you got to push the boulder onto it to kind of like break it or push it down so that the barriers go away. So literally you got to do that like 3 or 4 times, and then eventually you get to the end, and then that awesome music like plays at the end, where it's like it got me pumped, even though it's a little console game, but it really got me pumped. I was like, it's like pounding you with
right. Yeah,
my God.
Biggest things you got to give Pokemon credit for is that for just being the most minimal, cheap, primitive sound, like one of those greeting cards that you open and plays a song. That's the technology we're working with. They had some amazing soundtracks.
They did.
They knew how to fit with the most primitive electronic sound you can imagine. They knew how to capture a moment so freaking well. Scared the shit out of you when you're in the psychic or
the lavender
medium.
Town,
yeah, like a champion when you're walking to the playoffs. And, the battle, you always knew something was happening when it was changed right before a battle and all that kind of stuff. Really, really creative. Really well done for them.
And this is like your last chance to heal all your Pokemon, to buy all the items you need, Like, and at this point, this is where you load. That's where all that money that you were like maybe saving at all points. Like, I honestly would never spend $1. I don't think I ever spent $1 between Pallet Town and the Elite Four. Because at the Elite Four, that's when you
buy Pokeballs. You had to buy your.
Oh,
Pokeballs
okay, yeah. I'm talking. Yeah, okay. So maybe buy some Pokeballs, or you have to.
Medical supplies.
You have to buy
Pokeballs. You would load up on because in the way the playoffs work, the gyms you didn't have to face every person at once. You could face the guy, leave, heal your people, walk back in, and face the gym
leader and stuff like that. Yeah, but in this case.
You have to face the Elite Four, or like the 4 rounds of the playoffs. You had to fight all of them without healing. You had to beat everybody.
Right.
So you
got to load up on hyper potions, full restores, full heals.
Right, exactly. Yeah, your burn heals, your poison antidotes, your anti-freeze. Because
everything
round 1 of the playoffs is in Lorelei, and she is an ice specialist.
Yep, she's ice type. She's got a Dugong, a Cloyster, a Slowbro, a Jinx, and a Lapras. And Jinx is basically Nicki Minaj. That's the big joke that always goes around. Is that Jinx is Nicki Minaj. But they're all like the Dugong and the Dugong and Cloyster are water ice. Slowbro and Jinx are water psychic. And then Lapras is water ice. So you can load up, but like there's Jinx who is not like if you say you use electric on Dugong, Cloyster, and Slowbro, your electric's not really going to do much against. It's not going to be super effective against Jinx. So like you got to be kind of strategic in who you pick. Like you got to have a Pokemon that this Pokemon 100% is super effective against this type. And you have to do this for all 4. So say you're electric.
Right, yeah, you couldn't you couldn't heal or change your roster in between rounds. You had to play all 4 rounds of the playoffs through. And so an interesting thing would be they're all different types of specialists. So you had to really load up. You had to kind of count on like one guy, like, all right, I'm counting on you for round 1. It's almost like a pitching matchup in like baseball playoffs kind of like thing, like, all right,
which is always good to have, and then you have to have you have your starter, then you have to have your relief pitcher basically for using continue sports metaphor. You have to have your backup. So say, okay, you need a type
for round 1. You're facing ice. I'm relying on you for round 2. You're good against fighting. Relying on you for round 3. You can take care of the ghosts. Relying on you for round 4, you can get the dragon guy. So you got a matchup like that, but sometimes it doesn't always go to plan. Just like sometimes your starting pitcher is supposed to go 6 innings. All of a sudden, the guy that you throw out there to try to take down ice, he either gets frozen, which you can't do shit about that, or he dies.
Frozen, right? Yeah, he's frozen in Generation 1. Unless you have an ice heal, once you're frozen, you're screwed. Unless they do like types of moves that can will bust up your ice. Like fire obviously melts it. And then
who is
you had
to do
takedown. Yeah. Right. Well, her Pokemon don't even have fire moves if you look at them. So you have to do if they do takedowns or tackles or body slams, that would crack the ice. But yeah, if you get frozen in Generation 1, you're basically screwed without an ice heal. So you get like you said, you have to have the your starting pitcher and then your relief pitcher, where Snorlax would come in perfectly for 2 out of the 4 of these. It's even if you look, so we go to so you get past Lorelei, you save, because if you didn't save, you're screwed. That would be the strategy. You'd save before you go to your next guy. So that okay, I lost against Bruno, so I just shut it off and turn it back on and just say, all right, hey, I'm going to start over again. So they get to Bruno, who is the fighting type guy, but ironically he has 2 Onyxes, which are rock and ground and not fighting. And then he also has Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, which we mentioned earlier. You can actually pick one of those, but you can't get both. And then he has a Machamp, which is a 4-armed fucker up, or what, I don't know how the hell they came up with Machamp. It's you got Machop, which is a little karate guy. Then Machoke, which is the guy, but he's just a little bit more muscular. Then you got Machamp, and he just grows 2 fucking arms out of his shoulders. He's just a big monster motherfucker. So basically, for Bruno, you'd have to use flying type. But then, like we said, you can't use flying type on Onyxes because they're rock and they can destroy flying.
Right.
So that's why you have to have the backups and you have to have and it's weird because if say you have a really strong water type and he goes out against Hitmonchan can learn Electric Punch or Thunder Punch.
Right, yeah, that's a crazy thing that they try to pull as well in the playoffs is you'll think you're matching them up good, but then one random guy will know some random ass attack that's way out of character, and then he'll use that attack, like, you'll be like, oh good, an ice guy is good here, that he can't possibly know a fire move, and then some dude knows like Fire Punch or Fire Blast out of nowhere.
Random out of nowhere, right. So you got Bruno, and you beat him, and then you go on to Agatha, who's a ghost type. But
right, this
the thing
old
about
lady
Agatha,
is a ghost.
Yeah, she's into ghosts, ironically. The other thing about ghost Pokemon is that if you could take advantage of the fact, like if you say, this is where you would want to develop and raise a psychic Pokemon, which is Alakazam and Mr. Mime. Like you go in those two, if you can find those two, like I think Mr. Mime is exclusive to Safari Zone in certain versions. But like Abra is the hardest fucking Pokemon to catch. I don't know if you remember trying to catch an Abra.
Right, yeah, it's always
it's
it's always evaporating. Yeah, they're teleporting. You'll be like having a battle with Abra. It might even already be asleep when you find it. So you're, oh, this will be easy. And then all of a sudden Abra teleported, like before you could even
it teleports out of it. Yep. And that's the only move at level 10, which is what you usually see Abras at. The only move they know is teleport, and they can teleport out of any Pokemon battle. So they basically just teleport, and then you can't catch them. So you literally would have to have a Pokemon, like a ball, ready to go, and be able to throw it like right away, almost like no fighting, nothing like that. You just
you just
throw.
Gotta be lucky and just throw a ball and hope it catches it.
Exactly.
I don't know, have you ever, this is going to open up a whole nother can of worms that we won't explain till afterward, but did you ever, manage to catch a Mew? There was a very specific thing you could do to get it, and I figured it out once, and
I did once. I don't remember how.
Okay.
I can't tell you how I remember.
Okay, yeah, it's a complicated process, but I kind of remember. But I'll explain it later. But yeah, let's keep going. But anyway, yeah. You need
to have a psychic type basically to get through Agatha, because the 3 ghost types you can't hit with any other move. No normal moves hit the ghost type, and then you got a Golbat. I didn't go through the list yet. Hold on. You got 2 Gengars, a Golbat, a Haunter, and an Arbok, which is Cobra spelled backwards. If you didn't know, Ekans is snake spelled backwards. If you didn't think. Those are cute little facts about Arbok and Ekans, is that it's snake spelled backwards and it's Cobra spelled back. When I figured that part out. So basically you have to do the psychic to get through them. And then you go to Lance, who is so fucking hard to beat if you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Right, because they don't prepare you for dragons. You don't run into anyone else who has anything close to a dragon. Then all of a sudden you get this guy with a cape who's like the last round of the playoffs, and he has a whole roster full of dragons that you've never seen before.
Right. He's got Gyarados, which is the evolution of a Magikarp somehow. It's like
that was kind of like a joke in Pokemon where it was sort of like it was like the most useless Pokemon out there that can't even all it can do is splash. It can't do any damage. If you somehow stick with it enough, that useless piece of crap becomes a super intimidating Japanese dragon.
Exactly, yeah. So you got Gyarados, 2 Dragonairs, which is the evolution of the Pokemon you mentioned earlier, Dratini, and Dragonite, which is the final evolution of Dragonair. And then you have one that's really weird. I don't know if there's a way to catch it without, cheating. Aerodactyl, which is basically a pterodactyl,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is a way to do that from what I remember. You have to find, it becomes just like Jurassic Park. You find an amber, like an amber fossil, or it doesn't even call itself a fossil. It's like, you found a rock of amber, and you think it's useless. So it's almost like a little secret thing you got to have known about the movie Jurassic Park, or otherwise
basically.
do with this piece of crap item. It doesn't do anything. It's just amber. But if you find the right random scientist in the very first city in the science museum, you give it to some like scientist there, and they're like, "Ooh, amber. Let's see if I put it in my machine. Oh my God, it's pterodactyl." And that's how you get pterodactyl.
basically. That's
Yeah.
funny. That's crazy. So he's got one of those, but that, honestly, if you don't know about Aerodactyl, that'll be the first time you see it. And it's a weird looking motherfucker. Like, it is basically a pterodactyl from the big old days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, or it looks like a gargoyle, like one of the gargoyles from the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Right, exactly, yeah. Trying to think of what one of their lines from the movie, but I can't think of one.
Pour the wine. Yeah, the guy from George from Seinfeld played one of them. Pour the wine and cut the cheese.
Cheese, yeah.
Yeah.
And cut the cheese, yeah. So you get through all that, and Lance, like, basically is like, "Oh, congratulations, like, did a really good job. Unfortunately, though, someone beat you here. You don't know who it is. You're like, you motherfucker, I just beat all these I just beat all these mofos, now I gotta beat one more."
My team just got its ass kicked like 4 rounds of the playoffs, blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm about to celebrate, and now you're telling me there's a 5th round of the playoffs?
Mother!
Who it is.
And it's Gary or Blue, or it's your rival, basically.
Yeah,
and
the funny
he's a
thing
weird
is,
one.
you got to pick your rival's name. Like the professor in the first part would be like, "Oh, what's your name? Oh, that's nice.
I can't remember.
Have you met my grandson? His name is what's his name
What's
again?"
his name?
You'd be like, shit.
Asswipe.
Oh right, yes. Yeah.
His name is Asswipe.
Right. Yeah. Oh right. Yes. Asswipe.
But if
yes.
you were
grandson.
Hi Asswipe, how you doing? No.
Right.
And it's like
it'd be like Asswipe wants to fight. You know.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
But it's different though, because it totally depends on who you pick as your starter determines who your
Right, he was always such an asshole. He would wait for you to pick first, and then he'd pick whatever type was, weak against
best against you.
His entire team from the very first draft. The second overall pick is always like whoever, you pick a really good goalie, he picks the guy who has that goalie's number type of thing.
Exactly. So if you pick Bulbasaur as your starter, Blue, we'll call him Blue because that's your rival, he has a Pidgeot, an Alakazam, a Rhydon, an Exeggutor, a Gyarados, and a Charizard. So, and this is where your strategy and your team, like picking your team, becomes so important, because this is where your Pokemon are probably, well, if you have enough items, they're probably all full level, but all the moves aren't there unless you get like something to revive the amount of moves, because that's something else you got to strategize. Like, yeah, Hydro Pump is an amazing move. That's the best water move out there, but you only get 5 of them. And then Surf.
Right, yeah, and you just survived 4 long rounds of the playoffs. Like, you're probably using your best moves, and they're probably doing great. But by the time you get to a 5th round, it's like, how many do you have left?
Exactly, right. And if we go through the rest of if you chose Charmander as your starter, he's got a Pidgeot, an Alakazam, a Rhydon, an Arcanine, an Exeggutor, and a Blastoise. And then if you pick Squirtle as your starter, so there's really slight variations. He's got he's got the main, he's got 4 or 5 of the same, but then he's got he got a couple different. So if you choose Squirtle as your starter, he's got Pidgeot, Alakazam, Rhydon, Gyarados, Arcanine, and then Venusaur, which is the evolution of Bulbasaur. So basically, you get to this point, your Pokemon are so damn tired, and you're probably tired too. And you get there and you're like, all right, you got to fight me. And it's so cool because if you watch, he says something to the effect of, you know what that means? I'm the best trainer in the world. And then it stops, the text stops, and it goes into we get back to the music. It goes into the best battle music in the game, bar none. There is absolutely no comparison to this guy's battle music.
Yeah, it rocks.
It is the most epic music ever. I was trying so hard to make it my alarm ringtone, because I swear to God, if I ever woke up to this song, I'd wake up in a heartbeat and I'd be pumped and ready to go.
Oh, that'd be
So
badass. I can't believe no one else has ever done that before. That's brilliant.
so you get to this point, you finally, it's so hard, it's so crazy. You got to use your potions at the right time. You got to use your full heals at the right time. And then you get it, and then you beat a Pokemon. And then, it's, again, back to the music. It's like so uplifting, like, oh my god, I just beat the game. And then it goes through this whole ending sequence where you're, like, he registers your Pokemon into the champions database or anything like that.
Right,
And
yeah, it's like a list of, it's like the Hall of Fame, like the list of people who have won a championship, and so it's almost like the credits. It like shows off each guy in your roster. It's like, you're this guy, that guy, that guy.
yeah, it
Oh,
goes through like
and
the back view, and then it brings it to the front, and then like it's front view.
yeah, it's kind of
which is
cool
actually
how
pretty
they
cool.
like swivel the camera around, yeah. But yeah, and then he gets all weird and emotional on his grandson. It's like, listen, asswipe, I came over when I heard you won, but by the time I got here, you were already beaten. So, asswipe, you're a disappointment to me. It's like this long emotional
He doesn't
thing you gotta
say
sit through. Well, he's just like telling asswipe he's a disgrace to the family.
Right. And then so you go through it, and then that's the end of, like, that's the game, and you get to the end, and then like I think we're gonna have, because we're at an hour and 36 minutes right now, so we might have to do a part 2 next week or next recording, because I don't know how long YouTube's gonna allow us to put it up, but we got to the end of the game, and then we can go maybe next week we can go into like the side things we can do, because there's a lot more to it than just beating the game.
To fill an hour and 40 minutes of.
Trevor, you want to know? I had like 8 or 9 topics. I'm like, oh, what's something random we can talk about? I got Bills. I got the Bills starting quarterback changing. I got the last TV show you watched regularly, and that's it. And then we talked about Pokemon. So you know what, Trevor? I say let's call it a day. Let's call it a day, or let's call it a show this week, and we'll put part 2. We'll do part 2 next week sometime. Because, this is why At Random is so great. So, for Trevor Dugan, I'm Alvin Turpey. We just went through Pokemon Generation 1. We're going to continue it next week. Thank you for listening to At Random. We'll talk to you next week. Everyone, you have a good one.